Recording in progress.
All right. And we will start with questions and answers. Let me check where we're at with the hands. Go ahead, Bill and Maisha.
Hey, Bill.
Hey there, it's Maisha. How's everyone?
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. I have a case. I have a hairstylist who's 43 years young, and she's dealing with spinal stenosis, which is narrowing of the faces within the spine. So I was curious how we can assist her with dealing with it.
I would probably do lovage along the, like applying lovage to the spine. Is she presenting with any pain or anything like that? Or what's the presenting symptom?
Well, being a hairstylist, she's on her feet for long periods of time. So she has pain that comes and goes. She is getting chiropractic adjustments, and her doctor says she's on the younger side to be dealing with this. She said that usually it's like people in their 60s are dealing with this.
Yeah.
But I think with her job, that's what's caused us to come on earlier.
So like I have another issue with the stenosis is that sometimes there can be like a kind of like a bursitis that happens like along the spine. It usually doesn't get diagnosed, and so the fluid will thicken a little bit, and actually what happens sometimes is either the bursa sacs will start to harden, or you'll get lymph nodes that will start to harden and turn into cysts. And so I would do a combination of lovage applied in a neat application along the spine, a pretty substantial dosage, like I mean, I probably would test her skin to make sure that her skin can handle it. And then I'd probably put 30 or 40 drops of lovage up and down her spine.
Okay.
And then follow it up with some form of lymphatic oil, like it could be lymphatic blend, it could be just anything lymphatic. And then I would probably also have her use some lemon internally, like 2, 3, 4 drops a day, have her put it in her water. And the idea would be to, the lemon makes the blood a little bit thinner, like less viscous, but it also does that to the lymph, the fluid in the lymph vessels. And so, you want to keep the lymph moving along the spine and not having it thicken, because some of that material is byproducts of blood plasma and things like that. And so you'll have to do a combination approach, but like if her skin can handle it, I do pretty substantial dosages of the lovage. The downside to doing a treatment that's that strong with the lovage is really good for breaking up deposits. And good for joints. It's good for cleaning up joints. It has slight antispasmodic properties to it, but more it's for the cleaning up that area. The issue will be that it will make her go to the bathroom, like it will make her pee. Like basically, even putting 6, 8, 10 drops on the body will probably increase her amount that she urinates in a day. That's actually a good thing, but she's also working. And so, I give her a heads up about that. Like she might go to the bathroom like almost twice as much, but that fluid is causing some of the deposits in the joint. And so it's actually good and healthy for her, but she's also in the workplace and needing to work and, might not have the ability to step away. It might be something that she does like on the weekends or something, or in the evening. But if she does it in the evening, it's going to have her getting up in the middle of the night to go pee. I mean,
Mhm.
I've done it and I know what I'm going into. And then after a while, I'm like, God, I've gone pee like 6 times in the middle of the night. Not for everybody. And so I give her a heads up. That is the best way to clean that up. Cleaning it up without using something that has a diuretic effect. That's a rough one. I mean, really off the top of my head, that seems to be the best approach. I would also augment it by putting like some marjoram on the spine from time to time, or the nerve pain blend, which you could actually, if her skin again can handle it, you could do it in a knead application and put it up and down the spine, maybe not quite as intense, but the nerve, like it's pain relief neuropathic is the name. And that's, made to override the sharp stabbing tingling pains, but when you put it on the spine, it also relaxes the spinal muscles and the spinal cord, the surrounding tissue around the spinal cord. And so it just helps to establish good fluid flow, be it blood, lymph, whatever it is, up and down the spine, and probably will help her to stand a little bit different when she's doing hair. I mean, she might not be able to stand too different because she's got to be doing what she's doing, but still, like sometimes if you're a little bit less tense, you shift your weight a little bit, and just sometimes those little movements of maybe having your chest back, just even 6 inches or something takes more pressure off the spine. And so I would do those combinations and then, see how she feels. I mean, I would treat it probably for a good 30 to 60 days and then reevaluate. As the back issue heals, it'll shift and change a little bit. You'll still want to keep cleaning up the narrowing. Sometimes it can just be simply deposits that you might be able to flush out. But sometimes it's reached that tipping point where it's pretty hard to undo. It might be actually starting to be calcium deposits and things. And so lovage is a really good go-to thing. The blend Arthrocare is also made for that. It has a lot of lovage in it, but it has some other things in it that also help with cleanup of the joints. But a lot of times when you're having deposits in the joints, for one, the joint is a little bit compromised, but it usually is like uric acid, lactic acid, things like that. And so the diuretic is helping you to release fluid in the body, and by doing that usually helps to clean up the joints. So I mean that would be the thing. I mean, the other thing that you could do to augment is something like larch or hyssop decumbens, something that she could inhale to loosen up the diaphragm, just so it also loosens up the spinal muscles. But other than that, the lovage would be the very direct way of treating it.
Okay, that's great. Give me something with. Okay, cool. All right, thank you.
And if you don't have like the pain relief neuropathic, anything with mint in it always has an anti-inflammatory effect and helps to diminish nerve pain. But if you remember from the pain class, whenever there's like sharp stabbing pain, when there's nerve pain, within a few weeks, they actually start to develop spasms in their bronchioles. And so even if she's not complaining about it, she has tension in her bronchioles. And so by unwinding the diaphragm, you're also unwinding that. And a lot of times just deepening the breath and loosening up the diaphragm will usually reduce the pain by almost 50%. I mean, it doesn't happen every time, but it happens, 70, 80% of the time.
Okay. All right, great. This gives me some. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, that's several things you can do for her and bring her some relief. And I mean, that gives her plenty to work with for a little while. And, you know, like you said, after 30, 60 days, like run by me again, and we'll go through, do another eval and kind of go from there.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah. Tell Bill hi.
Will do.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Tracy.
Hey, Miss Tracy.
Hello. So
Hey, yeah, I heard you got your good news from all your legal stuff.
yeah, so I know that. Okay, so this the weekend's class. I don't have a question. I just want to say, oh my God, because the class itself, I didn't really feel a whole lot like people were
Right.
having these amazing experiences, and I'm just like, what ifs, you know? Well, I totally.
I literally heard you say that, like psychically. I heard you going, "What if?"
I bet you did, because I'm like, you know, I'm not having those experiences. But I totally shifted, and
Yeah.
I could feel myself shift on Monday when this is Monday, isn't it? It feels like 2 weeks
No,
ago.
it's Tuesday. It's Tuesday. Yeah.
It is Tuesday. Okay, so Monday
It feels
when I
like
woke
Monday.
up,
Yeah.
it does.
Yeah.
I just felt so different, and like I've worked at Message Point the last like Monday and Tuesday all day, and wasn't tired, and and then I just decided today, okay, if he doesn't sign the paperwork in this week, I'm gonna do a hearing and we'll just have to pay the piper,
Yeah.
And so I texted him and I told him that, and his wife called and said he was signing. So my brother was signing the estate papers for my mom, so we don't have to probate the estate. So I'm just, I am blown away, and I could be your poster child, although I'm not a child. So poster woman,
Right.
spokesperson for your classes. So anyway, thank you.
You're so welcome. I'm glad that worked out.
Oh God,
I know that's been. I mean, not everybody knows like everything going on, but I know this has been going on for a couple of years. So I'm so happy for you.
Oh yeah, and I think that it just that I needed to shift out of the place of resentment.
Yeah.
With him, with my family.
That's the thing with the weekend class. You know, the spleen class was about overcoming obstacles with persistent, like pushing and like, I will not take no for an answer. I'm going to keep going and going. I'm not going to give up. Where this last weekend with the Ming Men, it's overcoming obstacles, but through conductivity and shifting internally and doing like the soft version of it. And I still don't like the word submission, but I think it's probably the best way to describe it. But you're submitting to the situation and having to make some sort of internal change. And it's really amazing when that happens, because really what we're talking about, like with a spleen, is more quantitative action. You're pushing, you're trying to get things done, you're breaking down barriers, and you're not taking no for an answer. And then you have the Ming Men, which is more qualitative action. It works by example and invites reciprocation. And even if you didn't have to set the example through direct interaction, still there's like a softening that happens. And even when the energy bounces back between you and the other person, something about it shifts and changes. And when you transmute something in yourself, sometimes it also transmutes things in other people, because you're changing the energy dynamic that is bouncing back and forth between you and the other person. It shifts it, and all of a sudden they do something that's not in their normal nature and weren't even being prodded to do it. They just did it because they were stepping out of their box, and they just did it. And so it's always very interesting for me to watch that. It doesn't always work, but I mean, there's some times where people, their tendency is just so ingrained in them that they can't back off. It's just always aggression, or always, just being difficult, or, whatever it is. But for most people, they usually don't they're usually not able to hold that and maintain that for a long period of time. It's sporadic. It's usually when they're emotional or when there's a bit of an outburst. And, given an opportunity, sometimes people realize like this is going to cause me a bunch of suffering or cause difficulty, or it might even be like, hey, I should do the right thing.
Well, I really think
it's interesting to watch, especially over these last couple of years, because I'd say the rules have changed a little bit. Things are much more polarized than they used to be, and that's not going to go anyway soon. And so, having the ability to overcome obstacles in both ways, I think is really good, because it's not always one way or the other. For me, usually at first it's the spleen action, and then I step back after a little bit and shift. Just because sometimes in difficulties, the Ming Men approach, I don't know. When people are being super aggressive, it's hard to kind of shift there, but when I do, it usually does produce a result. It's just, I think, my nature was always like, be dynamic and try to get it done. And sometimes, it is the softer approach. We just had a situation where we were having to deal with somebody who was being very, very difficult, and not with plant prana, but in another situation. And, I just did the long game and just did like the Ming Men approach, and didn't engage them except, through the attorneys, and they would bait us to try to find out information or to agitate us. And we just were, poker face, and cards were close to the vest. And I just never reacted and never explained myself, never defended myself. And by the time that it came around, their lawyer ditched the situation because he didn't know what he was going up against. So he just walked away. Yeah.
Well, I can tell you that with the spleen class, like I really needed it, because throughout this time that you've known me, I'll begin something, I'll get almost to the end, and then it's like all my power just goes away.
Yeah.
And so I needed the spleen so that I could move forward and just keep on my feet. I think it's like I won't lay down,
Yeah.
That's the spleen to me. And then the Ming Men was just, wow, I didn't realize just how much resentment I had. And I'm not talking about just the situation with my parents dying. I'm talking all the way,
bucket loads usually from all kinds of stuff.
All the way to when I was a little kid,
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and yesterday I read that Fripp poem.
Oh yeah.
I read it I needed to get through to some people that work with us in India, and I read it. I did the materialization, and I read it several times, and like I was able to create a new process on the fly, and they were working with me, and it was like, oh my God, look at this. And then this morning this happened, so I'm just like, yay, Greg. Thank you.
Yeah, I love me some Fripp. I just saw that a couple months ago.
Really? Yeah, that when I read that, I can feel the change in me, and I see the different situation. Now I see every line, I can put it to some situation in my life and go, oh, that's that.
Yeah.
So
for those of you who don't know what she's talking about, in a couple of the materialization classes, there's this this theorem that was written by a Buddhist practitioner, and it's basically 21 like phrases or steps, or they're not steps, they're just, he's breaking down basically the creative process, and doing it in a very abstract way. But when you read it, it's what you would call Jnana yoga, which it's basically true information. And by reading it over and over again, it changes your thought processes. It changes the way your brain works. And we'll look that up, and we'll post that for you guys so that you can read it. The idea is to read it on a daily basis. I've been reading it since I was about I think about 14 or 15. And I'm just reading it every day. I go some periods where I don't read it for a little while, but I had actually pulled that out not too long ago and started reading it again. It had been a few months. And so, yeah. Yeah, if Letty's on me, Letty, could you pull up that thing that's at the end of the prosperity materialization class?
Yes, I will.
Yeah, thank you. And by the way, Letty is awesome. If I haven't told you that enough, Letty, you are awesome.
He is. Thanks, Letty.
I'm trying to talk Letty to coming to Birmingham, by the way. So you'll.
Oh, I hope she does.
Yeah, yeah. Hopefully you'll get to meet her.
Well, I've met her, but
Oh,
she
that's
gets
right. You've
everybody
been to
else.
Houston.
I have. Yeah.
And Balaji, your hand's
Hey,
raised.
Balaji, how are you doing?
Oh, hello, Greg. How are you?
I'm doing good. Yeah. How's life up there in Boston?
Yeah, things are good, Greg. Sorry, I'm driving, so if I'm
That's
on
okay.
like the wireless network, so I hope you can hear me. So
Yeah. Can hear you good.
yeah. Okay. So this is a question I had some time ago, and you had mentioned a few things. Yeah, this is around like the spiritual teacher of one of like my teacher who has like Parkinson's. He had mentioned a couple of oils he could take internally to help with the dopamine. And I had made some notes and I have misplaced it. So if you could repeat those oils for me, that would be awesome, Greg.
I'll have to look it up. I don't remember off the top of my head.
And Balaji, if you remember what weekend that was, I can send you the practice recording.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'll have
yeah,
to I'll have to go back through my notes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't remember. Yeah, okay, let me check on my end, Samantha, because I don't even remember.
Send us an email because I don't want to just like, say something. And also, if he has any health issues like diabetes or anything like that, let us know so we can factor that in.
Okay, sure, Greg.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the only question I had. But and life is good, and I've been, I guess, practicing like sort of on and off, and but again, I want to keep start practicing, but again, life has gotten in the way. So
Yeah. I hear you.
but again, thanks again for the classes.
Yeah.
But
I hear
yeah,
you.
yeah.
Good. Tell your wife hi.
Thank.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Greg. Thank you.
And Marianne, you were unmuted. I didn't know if you meant to be early on. You'll have to unmute yourself again if you want to talk. There you go.
Yes,
Hey, Marianne.
I just want to thank you, Greg, for opening a new wondrous world of oils and plants and so many other things. I'm just so grateful. And
Oh,
I
my
can't
pleasure.
thank you enough. And I have questions about two oils.
Sure.
The Moroccan thyme,
Yes.
is that an oil to be inhaled?
You can
Ingested, or is there?
you can inhale it, but I would actually, for you, I would put a couple drops in water.
Okay.
And it helps to regulate the thymus to reduce autoimmune responses and
Okay.
re-educate the thymus. And then it also has impact on inflammation. And so especially inflammation associated with autoimmune issues. And so for you, I would say let's have you do a couple of drops in water and do that daily. It doesn't matter if it's in the morning or evening, it can
Does
be
it
anywhere.
matter whether it's before you eat or no? Doesn't.
No. And it could be in juice or something. It doesn't have to be water. I'm just saying, water.
Yeah, water.
Something you drink, but that would be super good for you to do on a regular basis. Yeah.
Okay. And how about the poplar balsam? Is
So
that-
poplar Yeah, poplar balsam is a good healer for a lot of things. Good for, you know, aches and pains and joints and things like that. Very good psychological healer, very good cleanser. So like if you feel like you just need to release something, you have a blockage, you have emotions coming up, you have an old, you know, trauma or even stress. I mean, it really is a good broad spectrum psychological healer. It also makes you conductive for doing any sort of meditation or prayer work. It was used in the Jewish and Christian tradition as an anointing oil. And so like they actually used to anoint the forehead with a combination of olive oil and poplar. They didn't call it poplar. They actually referred to it as the balm of Gilead. And, you know, there was always all these rumors about the balm of Gilead. And, you know, for a while, you know, it looked like it was probably fir balsam, but, you know, I don't know, I kept grinding on it. And, you know, as I kept turning up different writings in different places, we really kind of figured out, like with the trade routes and everything in these areas, that it was most likely probably poplar balsam. And so both are anointing oils, but they do slightly different things. And given what they described, I'm pretty sure it was poplar. That was the oil that they used as the balm of Gilead. And so it's also good for skin issues, but I would have you probably just inhale it first before we start doing things with the skin.
Okay. Thank you so
You're so welcome. You're so welcome.
And then Sonia, then Peggy, then Kathy.
Hey, Sonia.
You know, I was looking at the Zoom connections to the classes, and it is vital centers and 99 aspects the same one, or is there?
Oh, you know what? I typed that in wrong, Sonia. Thank you. No, it's just vital centers and 99 aspects of the heart is the 99 aspects of the heart, which is the Wednesday practice. And brainwaves and vital centers is the actual class. So I might have typed that in wrong.
Yeah, I didn't.
Okay.
It said there was going to be something else for, I think, 99 aspects. And I wanted to comment about the lady with the spinal stenosis. Of the chiropractors, I've found that the best ones for correcting spinal curvature, stenosis, neurofascial muscular are network chiropractors. They focus on the cause and release those types of problems to retrain the spine to
Okay.
There's 3 or 4 stages of it. Get the network chiropractor with the highest stages, but I've found that they're better than any of the regular chiropractors and osteopaths I've noticed. The other ones particularly don't pick up if they'll pick up subluxations, but not necessarily if the vertebra is torqued in the horizontal. And network chiropractors pick that up if it causes stretching and pinching in ways that can cause stenosis and other spinal curvatures.
Great, thank you.
And that's it right now.
Okay, thank you. And so network chiropractic, yeah. Okay, perfect.
And go ahead, Peggy.
Hey, Peggy.
Thank you. Hello. You know, someone was asking me the other day, I was going to ask you about dopamine, oils and dopamine, because they tested her somehow and she has no dopamine in her body. And I said, I don't know, I'll ask Greg. And so when it came up earlier, I thought, oh, good, I can find out later about the dopamine oils.
Yeah, there is, I have to go back and look at my notes because that's not something I use a lot until I'm, treating somebody with that. And
Right.
I can't remember what my notes are, but there is an herb that does it, and there's a couple oils, but I don't remember what they are off my head. The top of my
Another
head.
time. I'll
I'll dive into
again.
my notes and try to
What
find
about
something.
comfrey leaf? Is there a comfrey leaf oil?
No, doesn't produce a volatile oil.
Okay, just wondering. Supposed to be good for the bones. And so if you have,
what are you
Go
trying to do for the bones? What are you trying to do for?
well, I have, the very thin bones, and I
So
do all,
with that, go online to Amazon and
Uh-huh.
get Solomon seal in
Oh,
capsule,
okay.
and take probably 3 capsules a day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then also just do things to regulate the endocrine system.
Yeah, that's okay. So then I woke up, my sinuses, I could feel them. They were kind of bugging me, because of all the
Mhm.
going on. And I woke up this morning and my left eye felt like I had fine sand in it, and it was just tearing down my cheek. And I'm thinking, I need to do a eyewash, or I need to do something. So I thought, oh, I'll ask.
Yeah, Eyewash would work, or just even taking the saline solution eye drops and hydrating the eyes. It could be that you have just allergies, or it could be a little bit of, there's very specific like autoimmune issues where it's not in the whole body, but just in the eyes. And it can just make you start having dry eyes. Allergies can do that too. So hydrating the eyes is always good. The use of Schizandra, we have the Schisandra, it's a CO2. It's a very potent form of Schizandra, and Schizandra helps to moisten all mucous membranes. And so it would help to lubricate the eyes. It would help to lubricate the lining of the sinuses, the lungs, the digestive tract. But sometimes people will have just the autoimmune issue just as it impacts the eyes. Could be that you just had like some allergies or got some little debris in your eyes maybe at night. So I wouldn't jump to conclusion unless it's just like an ongoing thing, and then maybe switch over and start treating it with Schizandra. If you take Schizandra at night, it's very fortifying to the body, and it will make you sleep really good. It will knock you out with even just taking 2 or 3 drops. And so sometimes I use it as a sleep tonic.
Did you put a couple drops in water?
Yeah, just in water. Sometimes I don't even do water. I just do it right in my mouth and then wash it down with a drink of water and call it good. And so, yeah.
How do you spell that, my friend?
Schizandra.
Very good. I love it. Thank you for helping me, because what I wrote doesn't look anything like what you just spelled. So.
Yeah, but
thank you.
Like I just flush your eyes out with some drops. Because anytime the eyes need to heal, hydrating the eyes always keeps them from degenerating and helps them to heal at a much faster rate. So whenever there's an eye issue, hydration is always the thing to do right off the bat. Just keep, like even if your eyes get blurry, you put some just drops in them, not even things for redness or irritation, just like the saline solution drops. A lot of times it will improve your vision a little bit, because the eyes are getting blurry because they're dry. And so if you hydrate them, if you hydrate them, it keeps them healthy, slows down their degeneration. And if you feel you need to augment that, then Schizandra would be the thing to utilize. Yeah.
Well, the moist membranes all through the body sounds like a really good thing all by itself.
Yeah.
When you get to be this age and everything doesn't work like it did before. So
yeah,
I like that.
the thing with, like, it's a thing in Chinese medicine, you know, they do it with the herb, they don't do it with the oil, but they take kind of substantial dosages of Schizandra, and they do it usually in the springtime to clear out all the mucous membranes. Like, it's like a detoxification, but for, you know, how we would do liver or kidneys, they're doing it for the mucous membrane. So it flushes out all the just dried up stuff in the nasal cavity and the lungs, and, you know, it just helps flush all those things out. And so usually in the springtime I'll do that a little bit, but like this year I didn't even make it to springtime. I was like, I need, like, you know, to have things cleaned up a bit. And I noticed my sinuses feel a little bit better, and my sleep got way better. You know, when I lived in New Mexico, I used Schisandra a lot because it's so dry there. You know, it also helps to moisten the skin a little bit, but from the inside out. And so, you know, you don't have to wait to springtime. And if you have issues with sleep or like you said, like dryness, something like that, you know, it's strengthening to the kidneys, and it's strengthening to the spleen.
So is it a blood detoxifier?
In a way, it's not like a blood detoxifier like Greenland moss would be, or clover, or, you know, things like that. But in a way, it is. It definitely can detoxify, but it doesn't cause the body to go in any sort of crisis. Where sometimes if you do a really strong detox, it can cause the body to go in a little bit of crisis. You know. Not really a health issue. It's just, you know, the body has to deal with all the stuff being released. Schizandra doesn't do that. It's usually strengthening, and I mean, really, it makes you sleep really good. I mean, rarely does somebody not have better sleep when using Schizandra. You know, there used to be an acupuncture formula, you know, Chinese medicine formula that was called Schizandra Dreams or something. And it was basically a bunch of Schizandra with a couple other herbs that were minor add-ons to that, but it was basically just to improve sleep. And so the herb never really seemed to do that for me. Like it would help a little tiny bit, but and I would take substantial dosages, but the oil, oh man, it knocks me out.
Okay.
Yeah, I even had Samantha taking it for a little bit, and every time she took it, I mean, she was just knocked out.
Good deal.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And not like because of like you're taking a sedative. It's just
Yeah.
It makes your body shift over to rest and repair, and you just, you know, it's like just time to go to bed, and boom, you're out and you sleep hard.
So how would you compare it with melatonin for me or not?
For me, I would say Schizandra is stronger than melatonin. Yeah.
Really?
Melatonin works if you have a deficiency. And so if you don't have a big melatonin deficiency, then melatonin can be so-so. So for some people, melatonin will work and sometimes it doesn't. It usually works when you have the deficiency of the melatonin. And so, you know, you can if you like the melatonin approach, you could also do things that increase serotonin, and then it will eventually convert over to melatonin. And so there is that herb called 5-HTP.
Oh yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah, it's real good for increasing and improving serotonin. So I think there's formulas that have both 5-HTP and melatonin in it.
Okay.
But I usually go the Schizandra route.
Well, I'm going to try this because I've
Yeah.
been using the rescue melatonin. You just kind of suck on them and they
Yeah.
dissolve. And
Sure.
but I'd like to try for the other benefits, not just for sleep, but
Yeah.
for the skin and the joints and yeah, I want to go retro to last weekend's class. It was awesome, and I was love listening to Tracy talk about it because I thought, oh, I have little things like that too, and then I thought, they're like little miracles happening every day, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it was perfect timing for me to deal with an angry person. I brought that up on Sunday, and to transmute those feelings, realizing it's just the way she is and what she does. It's not about anybody else. And that's not my job to save people. So thank
Yeah.
you. I was loving
Yeah.
it. It was,
You mentioned an email that was upsetting, and I think I
Yeah.
know what email you were
I know you do now. I know
Yeah,
you
yeah.
do. And
Yeah.
I just want you to know that class was perfect for that. So I didn't
Yeah.
go into do something that maybe I shouldn't have said or done, kind of, you know, just stepping back.
This is what I would say about that situation, and you already kind of said it, but it doesn't matter who is standing in front of that person. They're just an angry person.
That's just who they are. The words and things, I was telling Val, those words and things, that's who that person is. That isn't about us or, you know what I'm saying? We agree.
Yeah.
So I'm really looking forward to seeing you guys in
Yeah, see you in a few
soon
days.
and yeah, be in the same
Yeah.
area.
I haven't been out
Thank
to
you.
California for quite a while.
When are you guys are flying, no doubt.
Yeah.
Too long to drive on. Okay, this is good. So you already got your, okay, we can talk later. Thank you is what I'm trying to say. Thank you very much.
You're so.
So people wanted to know, how do you take the Schizandra?
Couple drops in water. Like I said, I don't even do water sometimes. I just do it right into my mouth and then wash it down with a little water. I usually do 2 to 3 drops. Yeah.
Somebody wanted to know, would you take the Schisandra internally or as an eye wash?
No, internal. Yeah, it's not to be put in the eyes. It helps moisten the mucous membranes by taking it internally, and it will actually help to hydrate the eyes. So, like, don't put the oil in your eyes, like, or even in an eye wash. Yeah, it's better just to take it internally. Yeah, if you put it in your eyes, it would actually irritate the eyes substantially. Yeah.
Go ahead, Kathy.
Actually, I have a few questions. They built. First of all, just to follow up on Schisandra, is that a plant or is it a blend?
No, it's a plant. It's actually it is like a fruit that comes out of China, and
Okay.
it's one of the things where it has all 5 tastes. You know, like sweet, sour, salty. You know, whatever those the 5 tastes are. It has all 5, and so you don't see a lot in American herbology, but you know, because it's a Chinese plant. But in Chinese medicine, they use it quite a bit, and then it slowly kind of made its way over into the shelf in the health food store. So most health food stores, if you walk in, they usually have Schizandra. But you know, people usually aren't super aware of it unless, you know, they're into Chinese medicine or something.
No, it sounds like a word like abracadabra or something.
Yeah,
So-
yeah, yeah, it does.
Now, the other thing is you were talking about poplar balsam comes up all the time. Every time you
Yes.
describe it, I want some. It's expensive, you know.
Yeah,
So I think about it and it keeps coming up. So I'm thinking I'm close to having to have it. But I have the poplar balsam spray that came in some of the classes.
Right.
And I'm not really fond of the smell of that spray. So I'm wondering if poplar balsam is different.
Yeah, because that is a combination of the oil and the hydrosol. And so the oil by itself does smell slightly different, but not massively. Like the spray and the oil do have some differences, but it's still in that same vein. Okay. You know, it's an evergreen, so it has kind of a smell associated with that, and they pick the buds off that tree and do it, so it doesn't quite have like a fir smell or a spruce smell. It's because of it being the buds, but yeah, it's
well, every time you talk about it, I feel like I have to have it. So
yeah, I mean, it's a really good psychological healer. And I mean, we were going through and doing some modeling earlier today, and I was like, boy, it's in several blends. And, you know, I've even reworked some of the pain blends and things and have added just a little bit of poplar. And it's like, first off, it's a really hard to get. Like It's not a very common plant. And then there's a bunch of poplar that's on the market that is adulterated. You know, they've taken other plants and either blended them together and they call it poplar, or they you know, use some synthetics and things. And so, you know, I get it direct from the distiller. And as soon as I started getting it, I just slowly, I just kept revisiting some of the formulas that you know, pain related psychological healing, and it's in a lot of the blends that we do. Like it's in a lot of the blends, and so I try to buy up almost all that distiller produces, and you know, it's expensive, and so like you know, I usually get a couple kilos and then like wait a month or two and then get another couple more kilos. You know, I just try to buy it out over a period of time. And same with the hydrosol. We try to buy up all the hydrosol that he makes. And yeah, it's a really good healing oil. Like I definitely would put it in the top 10 of things. I'd even say top 5.
Now, would you always just inhale it, or would there be a time
you can inhale it? You can. There are definitely topical applications. You know, from time to time, I take a poplar bath. Definitely for pain-related issues, joint issues. But I mean, honestly, I use it a lot for psychological healing too.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, hey, you know, just have a person heal it or inhale it, and you know, direct it to, you know, be it if there's a trauma or stress or something like that, and it's very it releases things very easily.
Yeah, that's what I feel. And spirituality and meditation. That's
meditation.
That draws me to it for sure.
Yeah. Like when I take a salt bath, I have to be careful when I get up, because like, you know, like when you've been doing meditation and there's a lot of spiritual energy coming down, it kind of makes you a little wobbly. Like when I get out of a poplar bath, I'm a little wobbly. Like I need to walk really slow, and because it feels like there's something pushing down on your head, because just so much energy is coming down. And so it's really good for meditation. And
yeah. Well, the bath sounds wonderful, but it's so costly. I don't think I'd want to use it.
Yeah. Oh, I hear you. Yeah, I hear you.
Although one time is a special treat or something.
Yeah.
Then I purchased Greenland moss, and I'm not sure how to take it or how frequently, and it's mostly for liver, is my understanding, right?
Yeah. But, so I mean, I would do that daily.
Like 2 drops of water.
Like 2 to 3 drops. Maybe start with 2 and then work your way up to 3 or 4. But start definitely with 2. Very, very good for the liver. Like you know, in any sort of pain-related issue, treating the liver is always a good thing. Like it usually over a period of time will start to help some of the intensity of the pain. The thing with it too is it does have an impact on the kidneys, and it is good for also, especially long-term treatment. It's good for allergies. And so you know, primarily I use it for cleaning up the blood and cleaning up the liver, but still it's good for the kidneys, and it's good for the allergy component. And so if you have chronic allergies or anything like that, boy, you know, take that. I mean, I still do other things, but I mean, definitely that could be part of the treatment protocol. And so you know, I find that I use it for a while, and then I'll take a little break from it, and then I'll go back. Like, but usually I go through a bottle, and then I wait a little bit, and then I go through another bottle, you know, a month or 2 later or something.
Okay. Lately, I've been noticing I take a lot of supplements, and I usually have a like a protein drink with them. And then I do get bad headaches. They've been so much improved, but I'll take aspirin for them. And lately, my stomach is feeling kind of upset. Like, I don't know, I'm putting too much stuff or something wrong. And I don't know what you might suggest to kind of calm it down, because I think I need the supplements.
So, and you're putting them in your shake.
No, I have quite a bit of them while I'm taking my shake, so that I'm not an empty stomach.
Right.
But
I would probably try ginger. Like ginger would be my first thing. I mean, peppermint would probably also work, but I think ginger would be my first
A
thing.
couple drops in water.
Yeah, a couple drops in water, and you could do it even before you started taking your supplements and your shake and everything. And should calm down nausea, good for improving digestion, and also good for reducing inflammation and inflammatory material. And so, it's good for the brain, it's good for muscles, it's good for a lot of different things. I mean, ginger is one of those just amazing things.
And can I do it several times a day, or you want to just do it?
You could do it several times a day. Yeah.
Yeah, like at meals or something or whatever.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, like I started even doing a thing where I put a bottle of ginger in the bathroom for like when I brush my teeth, I could chase down with either rosemary or ginger, and then I have it also by the bed. So like I'm trying to make it so that I don't even have to wander around and find it. I just wake up and I can grab it and take it. And so
are you talking right straight from the oil bottle or a drink?
Yeah, I don't suggest that for people, but a lot of times I just put a couple drops in my mouth and I wash it down with some water.
Okay.
Like I'm a little bit lazy when it comes to like putting it in water. I just put it in my mouth, and then the only thing I don't do that with is like oregano or cinnamon or savory or something like that. If it's other things, I just kind of put it on my tongue and then wash it down.
Okay. It's so funny how the divine works, because I've been bugging everybody for 2 months about my eyes because they're kind of blurry. And my ophthalmologist had suggested I have dry eyes, and I didn't listen very much because I'm thinking I've never really heard of that. And I sloughed it off. And I've been really, really puzzling. I asked my doctor today, and then you tell about this oil about the eyes. It's just like a gift when you've been searching for months, and all of a sudden the answer finally appears. So
it's interesting because like like I'd say 15 or 20 years ago, you didn't really hear the dry eye thing, and then as time went by, you started hearing more and more people, and it's really an incredibly common thing. And we really don't pay too much attention of it, but when the eyes get dry, they get blurry. That's just the number one thing. And then over a period of time, it starts to break down the tissue a little bit. And so, as time goes by, the more that you hydrate your eyes, and you can still do the Schizandra, but if somebody's really having an eye issue, I usually have them hydrate as well. One of the things that I would have people do is when they would have LASIK surgery, when they do the corrective eye thing, I would have them take Schisandra after the surgery, and then I would have them hydrate their eyes 3-4 times a day. And the doctors were always amazed at how well the eye healed, a couple months after the surgery. Like they were solid, the eyes were healing very nicely. And, the doctor usually said that, they're doing way better than usual, as far as the pattern of people healing after that. And so anything going on with the eye, first thing to do is just hydrate it, just get those drops and
Oh no, it's been driving me crazy, and it's such a gift for you to tell me. And I totally ignored my ophthalmologist because like you said, we don't take it seriously. So
sometimes they give you drops with like a steroid in it sometimes. And sometimes just hydrating it, you can get away with not using the steroid, but they usually give you the steroid if it's really super inflamed.
Well, she mentioned it. She wanted me to do these gel drops, but they blurred my vision at night. And so now I've just refreshed tears, but I wasn't using them. I'm going to use them so much. The last thing I want to say is I have a cranial person who does Young Living, and I was there a couple days ago, and I am just so grateful that I found Plant Prana, because I feel your oils, just how you go about getting them and making sure they're pure. I just feel it's such a gift, because I just feel they're such quality oils. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah. I almost worked for Gary Young, the guy that started Young Living, back in, I think it was 1999 or 2000. They offered me a job. But, they didn't offer me enough money.
I
was making way more than they offered me. So I was like, no.
No, I just really feel yours is special. I am now ready
Yeah,
to
thank
open my 4th box to keep my oils in. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
for a box. I'm like, I'm
Yeah.
so surprised, but
I hear you. We have special carts and everything for Samantha and I have our own, carts for our oils. We could share them, but we don't. We
well, no, I
each have
can't imagine what you must have because I'm seeing what I'm accumulating and it's just such a fraction. But
yeah. Well, good.
And go ahead, Barbara, and then Peggy Bonfield.
Hey, Barbara.
Hey there. I wanted to ask you about Monarda in terms of dosing, both for sort of regular immune protection, and then would you
Right.
change that if you were traveling?
So
with
okay,
higher-
so you could so I would do probably 2 drops a day, in water. Definitely that one, I'm talking about how I put it on my tongue and I wash it down. That's when I'd probably put in the water, just because it can be so strong. Sometimes it can be a little bit irritating to the throat if you just do it straight. And
So I've
so
heard.
two drops should be good. But if you are traveling, you could bump it up to 3 or 4 drops, as you're traveling. There's a very interesting thing. We've been, I've been talking to some of the old timers in the medical aromatherapy field, and a lot of these guys, they're out of France, and they're either physicians or they were working with physicians, and so they would do a lot of things that they would test. They would do testing for somebody who had a particular condition, then they would treat them with oils, and then they would go back and test. So they would really fine tune what they were doing to treat different conditions. And so one of the things that we've been talking about, amongst us when we have our conversations is, viral issues. And, just because of COVID and everything, and, we're just trying to sharpen skill sets of dealing with viruses and things like that. And one of the things that we were talking about was back in the day with in the 80s, HIV and AIDS, they were using essential oils to treat that. And, we started talking out how to treat viruses with oils and what was being done. And, one of the things that they were doing with HIV and AIDS, and they would do it, and then they would test the person, they would treat them, and then the next day they would test the viral loads again, and the viral loads would drop to almost nothing. And what they were doing was they would take Ravensara, and they would put about 5 to 10 mils at once on the back. They would just keep putting it in a neat application. And they would rub it on the spine, they'd rub it on the muscles, they kept rubbing it in the spine, and then it would dry, and they would put more. And we've actually done that a couple of times here, where we just, we took Ravensara, and I'd fill up a 10 ml bottle, and it's not a very expensive oil, and so it's not something you're going to do every day. But if you were traveling, or you think you got exposed to something, we're talking about COVID here, right? So if you think you got exposed to COVID, very first thing to do is take zinc, right off the bat. Take some zinc, and a lot of times the zinc won't allow the virus to incubate. And then, the Monarda should knock it out. But if you're really concerned that it's an issue, take a really strong Ravensara bath, or rub a lot of Ravensara on your back, or have somebody, even if you can just hit your back where you can reach yourself. Because it's really about just getting in an area that's not super sensitive. You're getting it close to the spine as well, but just get it in as best you can. And I think even if you had an exposure to being around somebody that had COVID and you did the Monarda, I think you're pretty safe. If you did Time, I think you're still pretty darn safe. And if you did the Ravensara, I think that would just, blow out of the water any particular viral issues that were happening right then and there. You know, something like the chickenpox virus, I think it would make it go into you know, that's something that lives in the body all the time, and I think it would put it in a phase where it was dormant. But you know, the thing that they were saying about the HIV and the AIDS is it didn't cure the condition, but it dropped the viral load to almost nothing. And you know, then things would go on, and the viral load would start to go up again. But they'd do the big dose of the Rabinsara. And what this one doctor was saying is, in really extreme cases where the HIV was pretty progressed, they would actually do an ounce, which is 30 mils. They would do it at one dosage on the back, and the next day the viral load would be almost nothing.
Wow.
And so, you know, good antivirals, you know, Monarda is the best antiviral in the essential oil world. Ravinsara, Eucalyptus radiata, and bay laurel are also really amazing antivirals. Thyme will strengthen the body. I mean, it also is antiviral, but it also strengthens the body because we're not just trying to combat the virus, we're also wanting the body to be strong, so there's just not a good breeding ground for the virus. Because, you know, 10 people could be standing there, have the same exposure, and only 3 of them might walk away with actually having the virus, contracting the virus. And so why did those other 7 people not contract the virus? And so it has to do with like the breeding ground of the body. And so if you strengthen the body, especially the immune system, and, you know, like we've talked about the skin and the endocrine system, it really makes it much harder for you to catch contagious diseases. And so the other thing to keep in mind is, like, if you're traveling, like we're getting ready to travel out to California for the anniversary for Astara, and we started doing the Rabinsara thing on the backs. And so tonight when we're all done, I'm going to do the same thing, but with Neoli. And Neoli is really super good for strengthening the immune system, not super specific for viruses, but it's just across the board strengthening to the body and strengthening to the immune system, be it virus, you know, viral, just whatever it is, allergies. It's very good for strengthening the immune response. And so any version of that or a combination of that would work really, really super well. And so, you know, if you're traveling, you know, just have your little kit like the Monarda. Just the Monarda by itself will work. The immune support will work. I mean, you know, we were traveling a lot during the COVID, and I wasn't aware of it at the time, but I had really super low vitamin D in my body. Like I had, basically when I got tested a couple of months ago, I had almost no vitamin D in my body.
Oops.
And yeah, like, you know, I'm not out in the sun very much. You know, I'm always working in the house or in the office, and when I'm traveling, I'm in a hotel room, or, you know, I'm just not outside very much. And so one of the side effects of low vitamin D is you're super susceptible to contagious diseases. You know, basically, in theory, you should be getting a virus or a bacterial infection quite easily just with, you know, being exposed. And through all of the traveling, you know, we were traveling when there was hardly anybody traveling. We were traveling when the planes were packed again, and just never had an issue with COVID. And so I'm not telling everybody that that's what they should do, but I mean, even if you're, you know, we're doing the mask when appropriate, and you're doing the vaccine, you know, some people are, some people aren't, but even with all of that, supporting all of that stuff with the oils, I mean, it really, viruses and bacteria are one of the areas where essential oils really are strong and they shine. I mean, not everything can be treated with essential oils. You know, there are some areas where it's just like, there's better ways to treat it. but viruses and bacteria, I'd put oils up against anything holistic. Oils would be my first go-to. Like if we're talking about something and if I think there's a better way to go through and treat it and it's not oils, I usually tell you guys, like, don't do that. Go get quercetin, go do whatever. And that's the best way to treat it. You can supplement it with some oils, but really that's the one thing to go through and do. And with the viruses, there's usually very little that I would supplement with. Maybe a little golden seal or something. But even then, I usually just end up doing the oils.
Thanks so much.
Yeah.
So with the Monarda, you said a couple drops daily. Is that like continuously? Do you
Yeah,
take it
like-
for a while and take a break? Take it year round?
You could do it quite a while. Like I'd say, like when COVID cases go down more, I would just do it in seasons where it's cold and flu season. But until then, I'd probably still do it until the cases go down a bit more. They're saying now that it could be the beginning of the end for COVID. Like it's looking like it's starting to diminish enough that we should see an end to it at some point. And so once that happens, then I would just do it cold and flu season. Before COVID, that's what I did. Like I would just take it for, like maybe a couple of months out of the year, and then that was it. But now I'm throwing everything at it. I rotate like Monarda and thyme and Ravensara and putting eucalyptus on my feet sometimes before we go and jump on a plane, and I just do all the different things. I try not to go too crazy with it because there's been a couple of times where there's been some complaints when I've been on the plane. They can't figure out who smells like, a bunch of oil, but it's always me. And so, I try not to be too overwhelming to the other passengers and everything, but like as soon as I get off, I usually put things on as well. So.
So you might not do Monarda daily if you were putting some other things in the mix, or you would?
Like right now, I'd say Monarda and still add other things. Like if you're getting ready to travel, I would add something else in with it just in case. Just because you want a little extra. I don't know. I always want to feel as safe as possible, especially when traveling. And so the Monarda should be enough, but I'd still take a little bit of thyme or a little bit of Ravensara or a eucalyptus or, something that's got a good antiviral property. Bay laurel works really super good. Bay laurel could be one of those things that you really kind of almost travel with because bay laurel is super antiviral and it is an incredibly good antibacterial. It works actually for staph infections, strep. It works for a bunch of different bacterial infections. And it's really super good for the lymph nodes. It's one of those ones where we're doing experiments with putting large dosages of bay laurel on parts of the body that are compromised, like have an ache or a pain or has an old injury or something, and just seeing what it does. And because it's helping to unwind the lymph nodes and help that body part to detoxify more. And I'm noticing that like the areas that we're doing it with, they don't feel quite as achy, they don't feel quite as fatigued. And sometimes I have to think and go, God, I haven't even been thinking about like, for me, it's my knees. I've had multiple surgeries on each knee. And so like I'll put it on my knees and then I'll realize like, I haven't even been thinking about my knees where there's usually always low grade achiness there because of, for one, surgeries, and two, even though I had that many surgeries, they didn't completely correct the problem. And so I was supposed to still have more surgeries and I just opted not to keep doing that. And so I was supposed to have more surgeries about almost 30 years ago. And I'm just like, I'll get by and see how long I can make it. And, at this point, it's almost 30 years. And so putting the bay laurel on those areas, it's not for pain relief in a direct way, but because it opens up the lymph nodes, it diminishes that like achiness that can settle into an area that's a bit compromised. And because anytime there's not just inflammation, but inflammation in the fascia, and you'll notice inflammation in the fascia because that area of your body will lose muscle tone. Like say if it's down by your ankles or your feet, your feet, like your arch will start to fall, your foot will get a little bit bigger, it spreads out more, because it's losing tone. And so your arches aren't staying up like they should. Or like if you have an arm that has fascial inflammation, you'll notice that it looks a little bit smaller than the other one, or it doesn't quite have the tone that the other one does. Anytime there's fascial inflammation, the lymph nodes basically shut down. And so even when you reduce the inflammation, the lymph nodes a lot of times are still somewhat shut down. So that impacts your body's ability to deal with inflammation in a long term. It allows that area to become pre-arthritic and then eventually arthritic, over a period of time. And it diminishes your body's ability to fight viruses and bacteria. And so by keeping the lymph nodes really super healthy and keeping the lymphatic system working really super well, you really slow down the aging process, you improve your body's ability to deal with inflammation, and you make it harder for bacteria and viruses to wreak havoc on your body. And so again, we're playing with different ways of trying to problem solve like issues when there starts to be like, okay, like I've been exposed, or boom, I'm really getting sick, or I'm getting sick and now I have post-COVID syndrome, or whatever it might be. Like, what are ways that we can go through and do this? And a lot of times it's like bigger dosages of things like Ravensara and bay laurel and some other oils, depending on what it is, if it's a respiratory issue or such. And I gotta say they're working out to be pretty effective. And one of the ways that we're even looking at as far as the delivery system is, like, say you're in the shower, we're making like these medicated soaps that are like, 4-ounce bottle of soap might have 10 mils of oil in it. So that's really super strong, but you would rub it on to like all your joints and your areas, and then you'd stand there and let it soak in for 5-10 minutes, and then wash it off. And I mean, it's a great way of doing therapy. It's the hot water opens up the pores, it drives it in deeper and much faster. It helps the body assimilate the oil at a much faster rate. And you're getting good, healthy dosages of the oils. And so you can't really do that with every oil, but there's some oils that are gentle enough to where you can take very large dosages of it. And like, you wouldn't want to do that with cinnamon, you wouldn't want to do that with savory or oregano or, some forms of thyme, but the more gentle forms of thyme, you can do some very big dosages and really pull somebody out of a crisis almost overnight sometimes. One of the things that I was sharing with the guys I was talking with was when I was working on when I lived in New Mexico, and I had a bunch of alpacas, and so I'd go and hang out where we boarded the animals, and so there's like 80 alpacas there, and so I'd watch the babies be born and things like that, and there was this one baby that it was born underweight, and it just, sometimes they have a little bit of a neurological issue, and they can't get their equilibrium, and they're not thriving. And, this happened to this particular animal, and it only weighed about 10 pounds, and they usually weigh 15 to 20 pounds when they're born. And I mean, it was drawing its last breaths. I mean, it probably had 8-10 breaths left in it before it was just going to pass. And I grabbed some milk and I put just like 15 or 20 drops of a really strong oil in there that I wouldn't even take being my size, but this 10-pound animal, I was like, it's dying. This is a Hail Mary, and we'll see if it works. And you know, we had to do it every day, but that animal made it. Like it, I mean, the vet just said, you know, make it comfortable, and it's going to die within the hour. And you know, it was a huge dosage, which you know, we don't necessarily want to do that every time, but there's times where if the person's in crisis or there's really serious health issue, you know, there's certain oils where you can go kind of go big, and it will pull the person out of a crisis. You know, one of the doctors was telling the story about this guy who had testicular cancer, and his testicles would swell up just, you know, 10 times the size, and would be really super painful. And the doctor was a medical aromatherapist as well. And the guy started putting 8 ounces of lavender in a bath and soaking in the bath. And the testicles would shrink back down to normal size. And he'd go almost 48 hours with no pain. And then they'd start swelling up again, and you know, because of the cancer, and he'd put another 8 ounces in. And I mean, he did this for a really long time until, you know, until he passed. But it was a way that brought that person relief, reduced the inflammation, reduced the pain, gave him quality of life. And you know, it was huge dosages. And not necessarily for everything, but in that particular case, I mean, that person's going to be miserable unless you really swing for the fences. And lavender is safe, it's gentle. I've never heard of a dosage that size, but you know, a doctor prescribed it. So I was like, oh, I want to question it, but boy, that seems excessive. You know, like I've heard like up to an ounce on most things, but 8 ounces. And yeah, that guy had relief for a very long period of time before he passed. And so, you know, it depends on what you're doing, what you're treating, but there are some very safe, gentle oils that you can do big dosages of and really pull the body out of a chaotic state very quickly, very quickly.
Thank you for that treasure trove of information, Greg.
Are
Much
you traveling?
appreciated.
Are you traveling soon?
In a few months.
Yeah. So, like, are you traveling internationally or just
Yes.
domestically? Yeah. I would go definitely Monarda, and I'd augment it with something. You know, probably have some bay laurel and some Ravensara or Eucalyptus radiata in your kit that you just take with you. And I would take some like helichrysum or strawberry flower, which is in the helichrysum family. And that would aid in any sort of inflammation that happens in the lung tissue and can be used for any sort of inflammatory issue that's causing respiratory distress. And then another one to travel with, you know, as far as like if you get mucousy or you get like a stopped up nose or you get allergies, and it's one that you wouldn't really think of, is terebinth is one of the best oils for drying mucus up. You know, it's for the sinuses, but especially the lungs. You know, Anula is the best mucolytic in the essential oil world, and probably actually even in the herbal world, except for maybe golden seal. And it will break up the mucus and leave the mucous membranes like relatively hydrated. Terebinth will just dry everything up. Like, you know, when it's really moist and it's runny and you're just like fully congested, you could rotate between the two, but like if you're just traveling and you have a handful of oils, you know, terebinth is good for achiness in the joints and things like that, but really super good for drying up mucus.
Okay.
Yeah. I'd also take some lemongrass just in case you it would be relaxing, and again for immunity, you know, if you get a cold, a flu, whatever, that's always a good one to take as well. Yeah, I mean, you could make a little list. We have like, I think I have like a little kit that I use that's about 30 oils that's like in a little that for travel. And so we can release that for what it is. We could give the instructions and all of it, and a lot of it is probably stuff you already have in your your stuff that you have. It's like tarragon, and tarragon's really good for any sort of digestive upset and spasms in the gut, and then the emotional component, like if you're stressed from traveling, or you're sitting there and everybody's agitated on the plane, you inhale a little tarragon and you're having a good day. There's like a handful of things that if you take, it's just boom, they're always good. Tea tree is always good. Lavender is always good. Lavender is really good for nervous tension, like when you're traveling.
I think you just did a travel podcast.
Yeah, I know.
Right,
Yeah, we
thank
should
you.
probably do like a little talk one of these nights on just like things to use for traveling. That's actually a really good idea. Yeah.
Thanks so
Yeah,
much.
it's stuff that you probably have in your
I do actually have.
Yeah, everything that I'm talking about would be stuff you already have. Like it's just the nuts and bolts of having some marjoram, having some tea tree and eucalyptus and things like that. It's all stuff that you would have, and it's just like the different applications. Yeah,
I think that's a piece of it, is remembering what to use for what.
Yeah, well, I'll try to, like, I have some things written down already, but I'll try to write it up. I'm spending more time doing writing, and so the idea is to write some things out for you guys so that you can have more applications of the things that you have and have more practical uses of those things. And so we'll try to write that up and then get it out to you guys like in the newsletter or something.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Hey, how's that permit treating you, by the way?
Awesome. Also, my right hand was just going to town after I used it this morning.
Yeah. Good for you.
Thank you.
Someone had a question as far as the Ravensara goes. Would you take 2 to 3 drops in water?
Yeah, you could take it in water. And the thing that's nice about Ravensara, I actually used to use it all the time as a healer. And I wasn't using it for the antiviral properties. But one of the things about Ravensara is they call it like something you would use for like a terrain treatment. It just helps to balance out the body, strengthen the body, support the different processes, and can be a little bit non-specific. And one of the reasons I used to use it doing healings all the time was that if I took a few drops, like every 2 or 3 hours, it would give me energy, not like a stimulant like caffeine or something, but I just felt better and stronger, and it gave me more endurance to make it through the day, but didn't make it so I couldn't sleep at night. Like sometimes if you take like ginseng or caffeine or something like that, it'll keep you up at night and throw your sleep off. Even if you sleep, you're not sleeping very deep. Where Ravensara, I was taking 2 or 3 drops every couple hours or so, and it was keeping me strong. I could stay focused on what I was doing, and it also kept my immune system strong. And so 2 or 3 drops in water. You could definitely take a salt bath with 15 drops, but I mean, I've taken 40 or 50 drop salt baths with Ravensara and found it quite pleasant. And last night how much did we put? Like 5 mils on, or was it 10 mils? It was 10 mils. We put 10 mils on my back, and I was a little bit like, oh, we'll see how this does. And man, it felt great. It felt really super good, and slept really good. Slept like a baby. So.
All right, Peggy Bonfield, then Kathy, and we have about 5 minutes.
Okay.
Okay, so what Kathy said, Young Living tried to get me every which way. And I'm like, I will end up with a bunch of oils that I don't know what to do with. And thank you, but no thank you. And here I am. And I love my oils, and I love y'all. And I'm so grateful that I waited, because I'm so confident with what is. Okay, I was late because I was at this other Zoom, and it's girlfriends, but then they all started getting really negative and spiraling down and negative, which is when I said, I have to go now. And here I am. Now, is inhaling some rue good?
Yeah, rue
to,
or hyssop, like hyssop or rue. Rue would be more for just disconnecting from them, but if there was an interaction that kept going back and forth that left you feeling a little agitated or it was escalating, hyssop is the go-to thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I get like empath pain.
Yeah, so like the way that I would say it is, hyssop reduces the tendency to absorb negativity from other people.
Oh,
That's the best way I could say it.
so that's even better than the rue.
The rue is very good for disconnecting energetically from other people. But, you know, if there was already some interaction, you know, you might have a little bit that you absorb from that person. But if you're in situations where, you know, people are toxic or they're super negative, hyssop is your best friend. I mean, it is literally like just put it on your wrist, diffuse it in the room or in the office, whatever, you know, whatever it is. When I was doing a lot of work in the corporate setting, we would always set up diffusers in different areas, and we would diffuse hyssop, and we tell everybody that was to prevent colds and flus. But it reduced the conflicts that were happening in the areas, and it actually increased productivity because there was less like agitation between people, like there was less kind of drama between people, and so everybody was able to focus on work more. And you know, people were all capable in these areas; they just needed to, you know, have the time and energy to apply themselves. And so, most times it improved productivity and reduce the conflicts in the workplace. And so, you know, there was a couple times where it didn't, but it was because there was other factors. You know, if it was just people weren't getting along, you know, it depends on the culture of the business or the corporation. Sometimes the culture, sometimes the issue is the culture. You know what I mean? Like you calm it down all you want, but there's the culture of just people going at each other.
So that's okay. Is it better to put to apply it on my wrists or just to inhale it? Doesn't matter.
Yeah, put it on your wrist, but like if you're feeling like it's a situation where it's happening, like even on your chest, or inhale it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
You're so welcome. Yeah. So welcome.
Go ahead, Kathy.
Hey, Kathy.
Hi, I can tend to overdo it. So is there a limit? Like, can I take 5 or 6 oils internally, you know, and how should I pace that?
If your body can handle it, like for me, like I can do that, but I've been doing it for a long time. Like I would say, start slow and let your body acclimate. I wouldn't do that with a lot of hot oils. Like I wouldn't do a lot of that with like cinnamon and thyme and savory and oregano, but other oils, yeah, you could. I mean, you could definitely work your way up to that. I mean, there's times where I even take, you know, 5-10 drops of one particular oil, depending on what it is. But I usually don't suggest that to people right off the bat. But if your body can handle it, like, and you've been doing it for a while, so I would say, you know, you could definitely step up your game a bit.
I take Monarda and I take black cumin, and I usually take Palmarosa. So it's going to add Greenland moss and maybe neroli or Ravensara.
Yeah, I think both of those would be great. Yeah.
Okay, so and should I pace them like 15 minutes apart?
Yeah,
hour?
10, 15 minutes apart. Yeah, 10, 15 minutes apart. Yeah.
And that one for dry eyes, I'll do it, but I think I'll do that at night if it gives good sleep, so that I would take the other during the day.
Yeah, like if you do it like as you're laying down, like within 15 minutes, you're starting to go, like you're starting to get groggy.
So
if you do it while you're up, you kind of like, it doesn't really allow you, like, you know, you stay active, you don't really lay down and have the same effect as sleeping. But if you lay down, or, you know, you take it and then you lay down, it calms you down really fast, and boom, it kind of does knock you out.
Okay.
So,
And then you mentioned thyme, and I think before you mentioned Moroccan thyme. Is that the one you're referring to?
Moroccan thyme is if you have autoimmune issues. If you're wanting to do bigger dosages of thyme and use a thyme that's gentle, but still pretty strong and powerful. And it could be to strengthen the body or to fight off
Strengthen the
viruses,
body.
infections. Yeah.
I'm not gonna strengthen the body.
So thyme thuyonol or thyme geranol would be the ones that you'd want to use there.
Can they type that in there so I get the spelling right?
Yeah. So yeah, thuyonol, and then geranol is GERI. It's ANOL.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're so welcome. Both are very, very gentle. So you could take big dosages of that.
Okay.
Benchmark thyme also could work, but a little bit more pricey. And so I would stick with the geranol or the thuyonol.
Okay. Well, I just tend to overdo it, so I don't want to make sure, but I also want to
Yeah.
add. So.
Yeah, I hear you.
All right, so there was a few things that didn't get answered in the chat. If you want to email us or put it into the Plant Prone Q&A on Facebook, I can get those answered for you guys. So.
Okay, and so we're switching over to the Angel Study Group. Everybody's welcome to join us, but we are going to cut and go to Angels, and so we're shifting gears. And next week we are going to be traveling, coming back from Astara. So next week we will not be on for the Tuesday night, but Wednesday night we'll be back on. So we'll be skipping a week for the thing we do tonight next week, and then back on in 2 weeks. But next Wednesday we'll be back on as well.
All right,
Thanks,
guys.
y'all.
Hey, take
See you
care.
hopefully in a minute.
See you in a minute.
I put the, it's in the newsletter as well as just now I put it in the Samantha. So hopefully you'll get that.